Blizzard has announced that today they will start sending people messages when their reports have actually resulted in an action against the player that they have reported. Which is great. It's nice to know that Blizzard isn't just wiping their asses with our reports like we've just always basically assumed. And before I get super into my rant, I just want to throw this out there. I include a lot of toxicity and salt in this footage that I'm including in this video, but it gets really hard to watch a lot of that. So I'm also just interspersing some good plays or fun plays or fucking times where I just derped and did stupid shit, because it can just be really hard to just watch nothing but salt for like 10 minutes straight. Anyways, so notifying people when an action has been taken. I don't think it's gonna do much. Based on personal experience and from reading other posts on the forums and stuff, it seems like you can basically do no wrong in the eyes of Blizzard, at least as far as toxicity goes, personality. There was a really popular post a few months back about someone who complained about they got falsely banned, and then it was this big justice boner because Jeff Kaplan responded to the guy's post and was like, actually, you said these things and you were being a total shit, so you got banned for a good reason, and everyone shit on the guy. But then he also mentioned that the guy had received thousands of reports in the past, and he had gotten silenced and banned dozens of times before, and it's like, why the fuck isn't he banned already? Why do they continue to let this incredibly toxic person be toxic to the community? Like, if they have thousands of reports and dozens of sentences, maybe it's time to take a little more action, don't you think? Like, maybe take that fucking step, because everyone, myself included, well, not everyone, I guess, but me and a lot of other people playing Overwatch now believe that it's a trip down into the fucking salt mines. Fucking competitive it's a goddamn disaster. It's really terrible. Like one in two games will probably have someone getting angry and yelling and raging that the team is just way worse than they are, and that they're throwing and they can't carry, blah 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 blah. They're talking shit. It's gotten so bad that for me, muting all players has just made the experience so much more enjoyable. So the problem is that toxicity stems from gameplay, right? There's other games where you don't have as much on the line and toxicity isn't a problem. Hell, even in Quick Match, in the arcade browser, all that stuff, you never really see toxicity because there's nothing to be gained or lost. But then once people's ranking is on the line, even though it's meaningless in the grand fucking scheme of things, then that's when people's true shittiness really starts coming to the surface. Usually it happens when someone does something bad or wrong in their eyes, and I'd say they're probably usually right, and then they take that as a sign that the player is fucking terrible and they're way below their skill level and that they should uninstall the game. And by the way, if you ever told someone that they should uninstall the game, then you're probably toxic, just so you know. And you can tell that to your friends and family, whoever the fuck else plays Overwatch, because I've run into a lot of people, a lot of toxic players that just don't think that they're toxic. And here's the problem. Here's the general gist of it. If you regularly find yourself giving advice to other players, you're probably toxic. Now that sounds good on the surface, right? You're like, how is that? How's that toxic? What are you talking about, dumbass? Well, it's like being toxic stems, at least in Overwatch anyway, 99% of the time it stems from someone watching other people's mistakes or misplays and attributing that to the person in general, which I covered earlier. But then they go on to try and like teach that person, or they call out their mistakes thinking they're making them better. So in an ideal world, it sounds something like this, like, hey man, I noticed that you used High Noon when you were caught in a gravity well. Probably not a good idea because you're gonna die instantly, right? It just throws away an ult. Like, that should be how it is. But in reality, it's more like, you fucking retard!
McCree, bro. Do you guys not know how to DPS? Dude, bro, you're just a fucking shooter. When you see her, just shoot her. Only shoot her. That's it. That's what you have to do.
They say something that they later like, oh, I was just giving advice. I'm just trying to teach you to play the game. No, you're yelling at them. You're venting, and you're just being a general shit. That's what toxicity is. To me, toxicity is when your behavior negatively impacts the other team. A lot of people have seen my behavior in videos where I'll say fuck you to the enemy or talk shit to someone that I've been killing or who's been killing me or whatever. To me, that's not toxicity. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm a fucking hypocrite, but I grew up in a family that was extremely competitive, right? I was playing badminton in the street, going like, all right, Mom, get ready to suck a dick, because you're gonna get crushed on this fucking serve. And then I beat her, and I was like, yeah, suck it. And then she, and I'm making it sound like that, but she beat me more often than I beat her, and she would do the same thing to me. She'd like, yeah, eat a dick, son. You just got fucking wrecked. Like, but all of that is it's in fun, right? It's in jest. It's like when you're on the couch with your friends and they kill you and you're like, fuck you. Like, that's not toxic. Toxic experience would be like, is if you're on the couch with your friends and you're like, God, you're such a fucking idiot. I don't understand how you can be so fucked. Like, all you gotta do is just hold on to the flag. Like, no one wants to play with that guy. No one cares. But shit talking is totally fine. So there's a distinction in my mind between just shit talking and toxicity. And the difference is when toxicity erodes the fabric of a team. So you really can't be toxic to the enemy team, and I agree. I'm drawing a line in the sand at a place where other people would not be drawing it. But to me, that's what the problem is. I haven't never given a shit about toxicity before I started playing MOBAs, because there was never anything on the line. And I think that's why you need to make that line in the sand. Because all my time playing TF2, I never gave a shit if other people were raging, because who cares if you win or lose? You're not fucking losing anything. So there's just weird people taking things too seriously. But now there's so many more people doing it when they have their MMR to worry about, that they have in their minds justification to be upset. And it always comes from the fact that you think you're better than the other people on your team because you're judging them from probably one misplay out of like hundreds of hours of a career in a game. You see something and go, ah, this guy's retarded. I don't know how many times I've clicked on someone's profile that someone was giving shit for being a bad McCree or a bad Genji, or like Hitscan gets the worst of it. Like, oh, just fucking kill that ferret. Can't you do your goddamn job?
You have 88 hours on McCree, bro. You have 88 hours. 88 hours of fucking shooting his pistol. You can't shoot a simple Pharah. That is sad, bro. That is so sad, man.
And then you look at their fucking win rate. They have like a 58% with McCree, and they have like an overall accuracy of like 60% over all games. It's like, actually, he's a really good McCree. Maybe he's struggling because they have a pharmacy, or maybe the rest of the team is not protecting him like they should, or maybe he's just having a bad fucking day, because that happens. Now, a general pro tip out there for, I think, everyone to remember that will make your state of mind a little better if you find yourself succumbing, even if you're not openly toxic about it, but if you find yourself getting frustrated at other players' behaviors, you will never convince anyone on the internet ever that you are better than them at a game, especially not a game where you're playing in the same league as each other, because obviously that's like a definitive thing. That's you're not. And so if you're giving people advice like that, you just kind of come off like a jackass. But like, even if you do have a higher MMR, higher win rate, you do better than the match, you have better stats all in general, you will still just never convince someone that you're better than them. I've never seen that in my thousands of hours of playing FPSs and my roughly 1,000 hours of playing Overwatch. Not once have I heard someone say, oh wow, you know what, I'll take your advice to heart because you're clearly doing way better. That never happens. Someone does a misplay and they're like, you're fucking retarded. The other guy's like, no, you're retarded. That's how it goes down. That's exactly how it goes down. So if you find yourself doing that, you should probably just stop. Like, you should probably just stop. You will never convince them. It is an exercise in futility. Now, I think the problem of toxicity, it's something that Blizzard obviously should concern themselves with, and they are concerning themselves with, because it's, from a fiscal standpoint, they want people to associate their game with good things and fun matches. And so when you have someone being a shit in half of your matches, it's not fun. Like I have to mute people. I'm just fucking over it. And the problem to me always stems from the fact that people don't recognize that it's a team game. And so I try my best to take criticism and listen to my teammates when they tell me to switch or whatever. But like, that is where I see 90% of toxicity, is when someone is frustrated that they have a teammate who is not contributing to the team. Now, some of that time is just from like I said, like skill. They're doing dumb things, but most of the time, a lot of the toxicity comes from people that are playing the wrong character, or more commonly, just not switching off a bad character. Now, I don't have anything against people who are playing Hanzo or Widow or whatever. I do have a problem with one-tricks, people who only play one person. Now, I try to play around them, just because there's no fucking point in yelling at them. But when I see them, I recognize that I am at a disadvantage. It doesn't make any sense, because Overwatch is like a game of fucking rock, paper, scissors, right? Heroes counter each other. So, when you've got a 6-on-6 of rock, paper, scissors, and then one person at the end just always throwing rock, that it just puts your team at a disadvantage. Like, ideally, you should all be rotating out and changing characters, and so when people see this, that's where a lot of the rage comes in. I think... Well, personally, I think the whole matchmaking system is just generally fuckered, but that's a video for another day, because I don't think rank is much. But I think they should find a way to tie in people's rank with their ability to work with a team. And the only way I could think to do that right now would be to somehow tie in reports as a heuristic, because they've already got data-driven stats that drive how much MMR you lose or you gain per game. That's the thing. If you win a game... with the exact same stats, or if you win the same number of games as another person at the exact same rank, you will gain and lose different amounts of MMR, not only because of who you're going against, but because of your own personal statistics. It takes into account things such as your accuracy and how many outnumbered fights you've won and lost, and how many of your counter, like McCree Fair, like how many you've actually successfully countered them, like... I don't know exactly that those particular statistics are being followed, but Blizzard has admitted that, yes, they do use statistics like that to determine how much season rank you gain and lose. So, if you ask me, they should also take the statistics of how often you get fucking reported into account, because people who get reported a lot, I'm gonna guess they're just not very good team players. Like, how often do you report your enemies? Pretty rarely, right? Like, usually when someone asks politely, like, hey, this guy didn't switch off Widow, can you report him? And usually I'm like... that's not really reportable. I'm sorry. It is like, okay, but then he's also calling us all shit and saying we're garbage. I was like, all right, well, okay, then yeah, that's fucking, he's being a shit. I'll go ahead and report him. Like, that's when you report the other team. But you happen to report your own teammates way more often, because you can see when they're being toxic and eroding the team spirit of the game and probably just making you fucking lose. And since Overwatch is a team game, I think that how you interact with your team should be considered a variable in how far you go. And it's really frustrating. Really frustrating to see people who don't work with their team at every rank. Like, I'm sorry, that shit should be in the bottom of the highest, not even highest, of the fucking middlest tiers of a fucking team-based game. I'm just thinking outside the box here. Blizzard actually used to have a prefer this player and avoid this player option, but people were abusing that, quote-unquote, to avoid the wrong players, which always confused me, right? So when you play against an enemy who's really good, you say avoid this player. Ha! You're gaming the system. But now he's just equally unlikely to be on your team, so that doesn't change anything. The same thing with preferring a really bad enemy. Like, yeah, I'm gonna prefer to have him be my enemy, and then he's on your team next game, and you're like, son of a bitch. So it doesn't really matter whether or not you prefer avoid. You're not gaming shit. You're not. I think the only reason they did that is because it makes matchmaking. It increases the amount of time it takes to find a match if you're avoiding players, and they wanted to make people get into matches as quickly as possible, so they just got rid of it as an option. But I think if they left some way to rate other players' team playability in the game, in the way of right-clicking on them, or like after a match you get a little pop-up that was like, how was your healer's performance? And then you say like 5-star, 1-star, shit like that. Like, that would be great, and it should actually serve to adjust their MMR, because I see no reason to be playing a game that puts such a strong emphasis on teamwork and hero switching, and yet have absolutely no downsides for people who don't know how to work with the team and don't switch their heroes around. Anyways, in summary, it's really awesome. It's fucking great that Blizzard is taking steps to reduce toxicity by doing this thing that lets us see when the people reporting are actually getting action taken against them. I'm guessing you're rarely going to see that message, though, because of how often I see reports. And I just think that Blizzard needs to do a little more if they really want to remove toxicity. And I think they need to do something drastic, because MOBAs have been around for a while now, and toxicity is still here. I think it's a side effect of the MMR system. In other games where you can't change your hero and stuff, people just fucking devolve into this cesspit of toxicity and throw games because, you know, you've got a really bad... I play Heroes of the Storm. You got a really bad Illidan or whatever. You have someone as a bad character, and then you're just doomed for the next 20 minutes. The thing about Overwatch is it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to be doomed for 20 minutes because of someone's choice at the beginning of the match. Like, you can turn around any game of Overwatch at any time. That's what's cool about it. I think the problem is almost everyone thinks that their rank is lower than they are, so their choices don't really matter because they're better than their teammates, and that's the whole matchmaking system mindset. That's a video for another day.